Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. A couple of days away from the World Championship beginning in Paris. Sentinels coach Kaplan has responded to what went wrong for them at the Americas playoffs and how they're looking to bounce back for the big tournament. He believes that's absolutely possible, and with Giant.X still struggling in terms of their practice, they might well have a rather good start to the tournament. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Roster drama elsewhere we're going to get into as well. We're going to start though with Champions Paris because it's just about to begin. Of course, everyone's been exploring over the last few days. Here's Jonah P. a couple of days ago with the G2 guys getting ready to go. They also revealed the anthem yesterday for the VALORANT World Championship. Is it the best one? Maybe not, but I still think it's pretty solid, and the graphics and the execution of it, as always, has been relatively impressive. So I think there's a good bit of hype for this year's World Championship, and there's a lot of storylines that are coalescing at about the right time. As Valen says, they're going to debut on the 14th of the World Championship, where they play Heretics. So G2 Heretics, the first game of the tournament for them. Like, it's a big one for Heretics, right? Because it wasn't long ago, they won the Esports World Cup, beating Fnatic famously in the finals. Now they've got to play G2 as their first round game. It's tough to call what these groups are going to look like. I will just quickly show you what Tarek had to say. The predictions are all over the place, and for good reason. Look, if I had to predict these groups, I'm probably taking Tarek's predictions for Group A, PaperX and Sentinels. Group B, I think Fnatic are getting out of the group, but it is quite tough to call, right? Fnatic, Bilibili or RRQ. I think RRQ could definitely make it. I don't think Fnatic, I would put them as the first seed. Like, I actually think I have Fnatic as the second seed from Group B, and then the first seeds could be RRQ, could be Bilibili Gaming. I think actually either are possible depending on which team turns up. But like, I don't know. We'll see about Fnatic. I'm not convinced about them right now. I'm really not convinced. So maybe I should take Bilibili and RRQ to make it through. But I'll give Fnatic the benefit of the doubt as the second seed. Group C is really all over the place and very tough to call. I understand Team Liquid putting them as the first seed. The second seed is all over the place. I actually agree with Tarek here. This might be a hot take, but I don't have much faith in Edward Gaming, and DRX, they confused me a bit, and in many respects they were quite lucky to even make it to the World Championship, weren't they? I think right now I would take NRG over both of those teams. So I'm going to agree with Tarek's take for Group C. Group D, well, G2 is the number one seed for sure. I think probably this is about right as well. I actually like Tarek's PickEms quite a lot. Group B I'm not so convinced about, but I think the other groups, he actually is kind of on the money. But as we know, this is the VALORANT World Championship. Anything can and probably will happen. But anyway, G2 and Heretics, they play each other. They may qualify out of the group, both of them, of course, but that would require a run through the loser side of the GSL system. And in a couple of days, this gets underway. Now, this, of course, is Demon 1, famously won the World Championship back in 2013. And Demon 1 today, here he is. He's obviously out there with DRG. Now, will he be required to play? That is still yet to be determined. But it's pretty funny, right? I know there's been lots of talk about this video especially because Demon 1, it wasn't long ago, was talking about, he was one of the people talking about the Chinese teams. Would they ever be good enough, right? Would they ever be at that level? But here he is promoting the DRG bundle. So I thought this was like pretty funny, really. It's just kind of blowing up last night, and there were lots of reaction memes to it as well. This is Kang, by the way, of course, like reigning World Championship winning MVP. Can Edward put on a show and make some noise? I think absolutely they can. Will they? That is a kind of different question. But yeah, there were lots of discussions here because the Evil Geniuses guys a couple of years ago, despite having the Wolves logo on the jersey, were like, our Chinese region's never going to be better than NA. Then, of course, they won last year's World Championship, and now Demon 1's here, representing China by the DRG bundle, and people are making funny memes like this one when Chet was like, hey, Demon 1, can you please maybe turn up for practice? But here he is, right? Glory to the Eternal Dragon. So it's all been going on yesterday. We do have some actual roster drama to get into, though, and I wanted to discuss this from Jake, who's going to be available next year. Famously, of course, spent a bit of time on Cloud9, then said that he was just going to retire. Then he actually did keep playing because clearly a guy with some talent. And I think it's worked out well for him. Okay, he's probably not where he wants to be, but still looking for a team for next year. And, well, as Lucas says, Furia Jake again, right? After the brief stint that Furia had when they needed players at the start of the season. And, well, maybe that's not entirely impossible. Akamaru mentions that Furia are looking international and they are potentially looking at a couple of different organizations. Players from Qubit, players from QOR, players from TSM they are potentially targeting. Now, it is interesting, especially for TSM, just because TSM, they're trying to win Ascension, right? They've qualified for Ascension. I know that many of you guys mentioned the other day that Exolos Laser didn't even make it, which is kind of wild to think about how strong that they were until it really mattered. But TSM, they got better when it mattered towards the end of the season. They became a serious threat, and Envy, TSM, the favourites certainly from the Americas side of the Ascension conversation. So the TSM team, they're trying to win Ascension, they're trying to qualify that way for the Pro League. And, they won't want to be distracted, especially if some of their players right now are getting DMs from Furia to be like, hey, we want you in the Pro League next year to play for us. It's not exactly guaranteed TSM win Ascension at all. So, it could destabilize TSM to some extent. Obviously, Qubit Academy, QOR, not going to be there anyway. Qubit couldn't qualify regardless because they're part of Sentinels. QOR didn't make it. So, the Fury are looking at a few players on those teams. The other rumor that we threw on the thumbnail was Crew Esports, because what's going on with Sadak? Is he coming back? That's the big rumor. Spent some time on KC, didn't go to plan. Feeling is that probably Sadak will make his way back to the Americas. It's very plausible. Now, not guaranteed precisely. Sadak will not be in a rush to make a decision, but Crew Esports are interested. Louds could be interested too, who knows? Do they want to rebuild a team around Sadak possibly? We understand that even Leviatana seems looking in a more Brazilian direction. Of course, Sadak Argentinian, but there's maybe some sense in Sadak could turn up over there. It doesn't seem like what they're going to try and do, but Sadak did pretty well playing with those Brazilian guys on Loud, of course, a couple of years ago, certainly back in 2022. This most recent season wasn't great. We think that Furia are moving internationally. What are Crew Esports going to cook up for the new season? But apparently Crew are telling Sadak, hey, you want to come and play for us? Then we'll give you the keys, effectively. You can kind of pick some players. You can pick the rosters. We'll maybe give Crew a better chance than what they displayed the most recent season. But let's talk about one of the big first games for the tournament, and that is going to be Sentinels versus Gen.G. Now, we saw yesterday that Ara was unwell. He was quarantining with COVID to make sure he doesn't spread it to the rest of the guys, and as a result, they were unable to practice with him. But as I said yesterday, there's got to be some ways you can at least try this, right? Like, the logic isn't, oh, well, he's unwell, I guess we've just got to explore Paris again for the 14th day in a row. So instead, they did some scrims with Waylander. Now, Waylander may be a name that you guys know of from the Counter-Strike days. Certainly, it was a while since I'd heard the name Waylander. But, he's working as Gen.G as their assistant coach, and he stepped in for Ara in their scrims. So they at least got some practice in. But it's not, of course, the practice they would have wanted playing without one of their key players. Presumably, Ara will be fine to play by the weekends. Obviously, they play Sentinels in just a couple of days on the Friday, so from a few perspectives, it's not precisely ideal for Gen.G, and it could well give Sentinels a pretty substantial leg up to start out the tournament. This is what Kaplan has to say. An interview with Sage actually was just revealed last night after the series against NRG a few days ago, but still what Kaplan has to say pretty telling on his confidence in the roster's ceiling, but his frustration that they've been unable to reach that ceiling on numerous occasions.
There's definitely a lot we got to talk about and a lot of takeaways, but we can be an incredible team some of the time, but we can be very far from that some of the time, and just we don't even need to be our best version in these games. We need to be a good version consistently. Yeah. So we got to work on that. Frustrated because I know how good we can be, and I hate watching us not achieve that. But I think for a lot of fans, it's going to be easy to look at us and think, Sentinels, they have these great games, and then they hit a hard opponent, and then they crumple under the pressure or whatever. They can't close it. And people can say that all they want, but I'm with these guys 60 hours a week. The amount of personal growth I've seen from everyone on the team this year, it's really commendable. And the amount we have improved as a team and as a unit is really commendable. I know that people have a high expectation for us. We all have that for ourselves. And, you know, I think people saw glimmers of it early in the year, but I think getting hung up on the spots where we struggle is valid, and we're hung up on it too. But it can't be, if it's all we do, I don't care what anyone else does outside the team. But as a team, if it's all we do, it's a disservice to how much we have improved through the year. Like, it can be hard to see, but I think we've really grown as a unit. I think we get ourselves through tough spots more often. I think we're in them less often. We are a much better team than before, than 3 months or six months ago. And I think, obviously, yeah, it'd be nice to win an America's trophy, but at the end of the day, there's one game that matters, and it's hopefully the grand final at Champs, the last game we're playing in the year. And I still think we have everything. We're in the driver's seat to make sure that growth pays off when it matters most.
Will Sentinels be able to turn it around for the big one? As Kaplan says, what really matters is what happens at the end of the season, and presumably they want to make it through the groups and then see what happens from there, try and make it to the grand finals. Clearly a team with a lot of potential. They've shown it on occasion, but the argument has been for many that are they showing it consistently enough against many of the real top teams? The answer right now is potentially kind of no. So intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments. Just one final thing. Thought this is pretty funny. The highest and lowest ratings of players in a single map at the World Championship. There's a few from Nats, from Les, from Durka, Ardis even, and Melsa who top the numbers in terms of individual map ratings. The lowest map ratings, pretty rough. Even Forsaken had one on here. Carpe, Tex against G2 last year. And then the list topped by a couple of Ukrainian players, especially Angel against Lev back in 2022, who also holds the record for the lowest rated map of the history of the World Championship. Of course, Angel recently retired as a player. G2 also confirmed as well that Leaf is there, because they did that picture and Leaf wasn't in the picture. So we were like, oh, is there anything going on? The answer, of course, is no. Leaf is there with the team, and he's looking pretty good and getting ready to go for the big tournament. So probably they won't require Baby Bay in the G2 lineup again. Time will tell, but very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.